North Carolina has a new quarterback. His name is Gio Lopez. He played last year, at the University of South Alabama, and he went into the portal, came out of the portal in Chapel Hill. Tommy Ashley inside Carolina joins us. First of all, thank you very much. It was short notice for people who need to know these things, so I appreciate Tommy's time at TAshleyIC on Twitter. Tell me how big a deal this is for UNC football.
They had to have a quarterback. They've got to have some sort of they had to have some sort of game changer at quarterback. And I think Bryce Baker, maybe down the road, is that guy, but he's still, supposed to be a high school senior right now. And I don't know that Bill Belichick could go into this coming season having to rely on that, given that they want to win now and they want to win as much as possible early. So I think the Lopez pickup's a good one. We'll see how good he is acclimating, not having spring practice and all that, but right. It is definitely making things interesting in Chapel Hill. So he's kind of a dual threat guy as far as I could tell. Again, as I said earlier, I have not watched a lick of Gio Lopez football. So what are Tarheel fans going to see? And then I have a question about Bryce. Yeah, he's a lefty. He makes plays with his legs. He's stocky. He's built. He reminds me, and I said it on one of our shows. He reminds me sort of a Darian Durant body type, and he runs similar to Sam Howell. I don't know. Neither one of those guys are very fast, but Sam Howell would always seem to be making yards with his legs, and I think Lopez is probably a little more dynamic in that regard. And, he's going to make plays, and he's going to make plays on the run. And, the way college football is, offensive lines, you got to be able to run. You got to be able to move if you're a quarterback, and I think Lopez can handle that aspect of it. We'll see.
Darian Durant, put that in my veins. One of my all-time favorite Tar Heel quarterbacks. Tommy Ashley, Inside Carolina, is joining us here. So he's got 3 years of eligibility left, Gio Lopez. Bryce Baker is a freshman. So theoretically, he's got, 5. We're going to end up with 5 years of active eligibility. What gives? Everybody wants to play. What do you think the long-term plan is here?
That's a great question. And I think for Baker, the long-term plan would be to watch this year and then assume the reins next year. But like you mentioned, Lopez has got 3 years, and we'll see. I mean, Bill Belichick and his staff have shown that, they're not afraid to ask people to move on if it's not working out. And, with the transfer portal, the good thing about it is players have freedom of movement. If they don't like what they're doing, if they don't like their situation, they just up and leave. Coaches do it all the time, so now players are doing it. We've seen guys come in December and leave in April, like we saw with Ryan Brown, the Purdue quarterback. So I think what you're going to see, Adam, is these now spring practices and even fall camps are basically tryouts. And if somebody can cut it, they stick around. If the coaching staff don't think they can cut it, then they ship them out or they jump in the portal. So for Baker, he's definitely got the skills. He's going to need the experience and all of that, and I think he'll gain it being able to watch. You don't want to throw a freshman in right away, unless you're different, like a Sam Howell. But even Drake May sat, for a year. Right. So I think it's best for Baker to watch for a year and sort of ease into it rather than being the guy. But what happens after that, your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah.
I mean, it is absolutely nuts in college athletics these days. I think we can agree on that.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. You've been at Inside Carolina, I believe, as long as I have been doing radio in Raleigh. There's no way we could have foreseen what we're dealing with today, and you deal with it on a more regular basis around football than I do. There's no way we could have foreseen this, 5 years ago, really, let alone 25 years ago. By the way, I don't know the name of him, but there was a tight end at Wake Forest who went into the portal, went to Georgia Tech, and is now back at Wake Forest. What a slingshot that is. That is, I guess we call that a boomerang. Tommy Ashley, Inside Carolina, is joining us here on the Adam Gold Show. Bo Atkinson, Carolina's leading sack artist, I guess. They're called sack artists these days. He went into the portal. Talk to me about, I know Carolina's got linebackers who have come out of the portal to play in Carolina, but what does losing Bo Atkinson mean?
Oh, it's tremendous. That is a guy that, based on the last part of last year, he really burned it toward up, and then he was expected to be a guy that was going to be that edge rusher. We saw what Kamen Rucker did for North Carolina last year and the difference he made. Carolina's defense was average to a little bit above average with Rucker. It was terrible and to beyond terrible without Rucker, and I think Atkinson is that type player for North Carolina. A couple things with Atkinson. Was going to be a mainstay on your defense. He had progressed. I've seen him since he was in Raleigh at Leesville. I think he was at Leesville, but a local kid poised to break out, and now he's gone. And, if you believe the internet rumors or internet reporting, he's checking out some of the big dogs in college football. But again, Carolina has done well, at least under Mack Brown, did well to retain guys. They retained Amarian Hampton, they retained Drake May and all that. But Atkinson, anytime you have a coaching change and it says stark a difference in styles as Mack Brown to Belichick, you're going to have guys that don't like the fit, don't like the way things are done, and potentially don't like the amount of money they're getting paid or being offered. So I just think it's a huge loss for North Carolina to lose Atkinson for a variety of reasons, but definitely on the football field.
Tommy Ashley, Inside Carolina, is joining us here in the Adam Gold Show. Before I get to a big picture question for you, there was a story on CBSSports.com a couple of days ago, and it's not necessarily attributed to, I don't know how much of this is fact and how much of this is like fan fiction, but the rumor is that North Carolina is, it says here, lowballing targets during the this portal window. What do we know about? Because a lot was promised to Bill from the school and from the third party collectives. How much of that are they coming through on, as far as you know?
Yeah, I saw a crawl on ESPN showing that Lopez is getting paid that Mensa money, that Duke quarterback money.
Really?
For North Carolina.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. And, guys are getting paid a lot, but until there's a way that the numbers are actually public, I don't think we ever can know.
Right.
I do know that, I think that perhaps North Carolina is spending lower on current players versus the portal, but exact breakdown of the money, you never know. And the problem is unless it's public and it's the grown-ups, quote-unquote grown-ups, putting the money out there, then young guys are going to talk. How many people Adam, have that make as much money as they make tell the truth when they ask how much they make? You know what I mean?
They usually say, I do okay.
Yeah. Or they say, oh, I don't make anything. Or, some people on the other side say, man, I make a couple $1 million a year. And you're like, yeah, right. So, you've got all those dynamics going on. I think Carolina has been competitive somewhat, but I do think they're lacking in other areas. It depends on who you talk to. The money's there. The money's not there. It's just, whatever day, whatever minute you talk to somebody, and that's the situation you've got. But the bottom line is, like you mentioned earlier, 5 years ago, who ever thought we'd be talking about $5, $10, $20 million rosters in college athletics with guys that you don't even know who they are, until they roll out on a Saturday. So yeah, it's just a crazy time.
It is. All right, now final thing for Tommy Ashley, Inside Carolina at TAshleyIC on Twitter. So you've been around the football programs at UNC for a long time, but most recently with Mack Brown to Bill Belichick. If you could describe the difference between the two from your perspective, not from a play, and maybe it's your opinions are shaded by how you see Bill deal with players versus how you saw Mack deal with players. But can you describe the difference between the two?
Let's say I don't want to pigeonhole myself too much. It is very, very different.
Sure.
So picture it being, and this is not a ding on Mac, but picture it being you're going to your grandparents' house, and everybody loves you, and you are treated like the loved grandson. And then picture after you're done with that weekend, you're going back to boot camp, and you're going to your military base or your boarding school or wherever it is, and you have to deal with that type situation. I think for players specific, for the media, it's obvious, right? Matt would talk to us anytime and all the time. It has not been the case with Belichick. But for the players, I think it's such a stark difference. Some guys love it, and some guys don't. But I think I'm not sure you could find a different coaching change across the country over some years where it's so different between the guy that was there versus the guy that is there. And that's, I've said all along, this is going to be an amazing success for North Carolina, or this is going to be an amazing cluster for North Carolina. And I don't see much in between there, to be honest with you, and that's just my opinion. But yeah, I'm not sure you could find a bigger difference in styles and approaches and all. You and
I are in total agreement with that. This is because I know there are. I mean, I'm sure you've read. There's been tons of criticism. This is never going to work. He has no college experience. Blah blah. All of this, people have decided that it won't work. I think there is probably a greater chance than not that those people are right. But if this does work, it's going to be amazing. And it's going to be for people who, and maybe not as much for media like inside Carolina that would love to see Carolina succeed, really love it. It's good for business, probably good for business either way. But it's going to be one of the great stories to watch all season long. And I think that there will never be more figurative ink spilled on any college football program than will be on North Carolina this year. I think start to finish, and there's no middle ground. A 7-6 season is a failure. Something like that, 6-6 win a bowl game, or 7-5 lose the bowl game will be a failure for that program because of the head coach. It's going to be unbelievably fascinating.
Yeah, it's going to be like you mentioned, every eyeball. I mean, can you imagine when we're rolling up to this TCU game on Monday of Labor Day weekend, how insane it's going to be in Chapel Hill? And I mean, it's going to be absolutely nuts. And it's going to be either that situation where you're trying not to look at the car wreck, but you really want to look, or you're looking at this amazing success story. And I'm not there on deciding what it's going to be yet. I just know, like you said, I'll be watching.
Oh, it's going to be amazing. Tommy, I appreciate your time. I really do. It was fun. I hope we can do it again.
Yep. Just let me know. Appreciate it, Adam.
You got it. Tommy Ashley, Inside Carolina at TAshleyIC on Twitter.